Gonna bring up your next storyteller. Really excited to see her. She is a comics editor. Used to be a comics editor. Is a creator of a wonderful comic called Heartbreakers, which you can actually buy at the merch booth, right? There's some copies of Heartbreakers back there. Let her hear it. Anina, Bennett.
Yes, you can buy it back there. So I have what you might call a dual career, or when I'm not feeling so good about it, schizophrenic career. So by day, I am a strategic business development writer and project manager at an international law firm. By nights and weekends, I'm a published author of science fiction graphic novels and steampunk historical fiction. Now, my previous day job was working as a comic book editor, quite some time ago, actually. And that's something that sounds a lot cooler than working for an international law firm, right? It sounds really almost sexy. And it was very creative and very fun in a lot of ways. It also pays absolute crap. And it left me crying on the floor in the bathroom at work at least once. My law firm job, thankfully, has never done that. And it is, in fact, it was about 10 years ago that I stumbled into this law firm career. And without knowing it, I had accidentally found one of the best jobs a writer could possibly find. Good God. Everybody knows writers don't make a living. It's always that, oh, but what's your day job? Well, my day job's actually writing. I get paid really well for it. I have good benefits. I have job security. But when I accepted that job at the end of 2012, I felt like the biggest failure. And that's because I had spent most of the time that I was working in law firms wanting to be a full-time writer. And in 2012, I did manage to get a couple of books done while I was working at those law firms. And in 2012, that was the year I was going to do it. My last law firm job had come to an end. My husband, who's also my collaborator, and I had a new book coming out. I planned and executed this really elaborate 3-store launch party where we did like performances with our friends, and there was a scavenger hunt kind of thing, and that was at the beginning of the year. The entire rest of the year, my God, it was the year I was going to really finally be a full-time writer. It took me until I was, I don't know, probably 35 to even be able to just call myself a writer. I was always an editor writer, because, I don't know, that writing thing, it's really scary. So I finally gotten to that point that I knew that's what I wanted to do. I finally figured out what I wanted to do when I grew up, like in my 30s. And so in 2012, that was the year. So we had all this awesome stuff planned. We were going to go, my husband and I do a lot of comic book conventions. And you might have seen these. They show the big one in San Diego on TV a lot. They cover it on CNN. There's a big one in Seattle. Even the smaller local shows get covered. So you might have seen comic book conventions on TV. And when you see them covered on TV, it's a lot of like people dressed up in costume, like somebody dressed as Thor, somebody dressed as Wonder Woman, somebody dressed as Thor matched up with Wonder Woman. There's people standing in lines to get their pictures taken with celebrities, paying money to stand in line for like 6 hours to get their picture taken with celebrities. This is all the stuff they show on the news. What they almost never show is me and my husband and all the other artists and writers who are standing behind a little table, a little bigger than that merch table back there, with all our books and things, going, "Hi, would you like to read a book about a robot? We made it." And we actually did pretty well at that. We had a whole string of those planned out. People were starting to invite us as guests to steampunk conventions because of this robot book we had done called Boilerplate. And in between, all this other really cool stuff started cropping up. Like, we were among the subjects of a documentary funded by Intel, of all places, about the steampunk community, the burgeoning steampunk subculture. We got a movie deal with an A-list producer for that robot book. We got invited because of the documentary. We were invited as guests to a futurist conference. I mean, an actual, academic futurist conference with world-famous science fiction authors. There was a whole exhibit about the robot, about Boilerplate. I can't even remember all the things that happened during that year. It was just one thing, exciting thing after another. We got to do a residency at an art and science museum in Salt Lake City. If you're ever in Salt Lake City, by the way, go to the Leonardo. It's really cool. And they did an exhibit. They had a whole exhibit of boilerplate there. They took some of the stuff from the Futurist conference. And we were just sort of like running from one thing to the next. And we were like, I was like, this is it. I had this joke at the time. I had this joke that I kept saying to myself and to my husband, probably more than he wanted to hear it, about, boy, I'm going to fly. This is the year I'm going to fly and be freelance. I sure hope I don't just plummet off the cliff. So we spend this whole year squeezing freelance jobs, in between all this traveling, doing all this super exciting stuff, really thinking like we're getting to the next level in our careers, And towards the end of the year, things started to be not so great. We got invited to pitch for a TEDx talk, and we got rejected. We got invited to pitch for a story lab at Sundance. It was like an exclusive invitation. I spent all this time on it. We were really excited about it. And we got rejected. And then I started looking a little further down the road, a couple of months, and I realized that I didn't know how we were going to be able to pay our mortgage in a few months. And that sucked. That really sucked. I don't want to lose that house. We've lived in that house for more than 20 years. I am well on my way to becoming the crazy old lady on the corner. And I'm not ready to give up on that dream either. So, right around that time, I got another law firm job offer, which I really can't complain about, right? Like, just out of the blue, somebody headhunted me and was like, hey, would you like to talk to these people about this full-time job? I'd spent the last year, telling headhunters, oh, no, I'm not interested in full-time work. Thank you. I'm going to be a writer now. Whee! And I took a hard look at our bank account and thought ahead, and I knew I had to take that job. I felt like I had plummeted straight off the cliff and pretty much pancaked. So here I am accepting this job that by all external measures is success. I'm a success, right? They pay me well to write. I could spend the rest of my career doing that. If I wanted to feel my soul being slowly crushed bit by bit. It's not the worst place in the world to work, but it's certainly not what I want to do with the rest of my career. So that was the end of 2012. I had to acknowledge with all the other things that were going on in my life, I could not start on another book while I'm doing this job. So I spent the last couple of years just doing the job, working my butt off, doing it right, doing it well, banking money. And then I realized, I looked a little further ahead and I went, oh, you know what? I think I could afford to quit in late 2015 maybe. I could maybe afford to quit before that, but I'll wait a little longer, bank a little more money, try and do it right this time, not hit the ground. And then, about a month after I had made that decision, this giant law firm suddenly announced that they were relocating upwards of 200 jobs, mostly from San Francisco, but also including my job in Portland, to Kansas City, Missouri. This was a complete surprise to most of us at the staff level. But the bonus, the good news, is that if I stay through the transition, which is kind of around when I was planning to quit anyway, they're going to pay me a fat bonus. And it was the first time in at least 15 years that I felt like I actually did the right thing, acted like a grown-up, and somewhere the universe went, good plan. Ting! So next year, at age 51, that's the year I'm finally going to fly. Thank you.
Let's hear it for Anina, everyone. What a wonderful story. I'm picking up on another theme, which is that this show could easily be called My Best Successes. And I feel like this is a very like female trait that we're so used to apologizing for things, that so many of these stories are about, you wrote a book and you got a movie deal and you did all these conferences.
Right, like stuff people wait their whole lives for, right? I
Yes.
should be really happy and feel really successful, and yet I felt like I'd taken a huge step back when I took that job.
And you got an awesome job that's not for you. It's not what you wanted to do.
No, but if anybody wants to move to Kansas City, Missouri, they are hiring.
There's a law firm job open in Kansas City, Missouri, if anyone's
A bunch of law firm
looking.
jobs.
So, has anyone been watching the new season of Amy Schumer, Inside Amy Schumer?
Yes.
Have you guys seen that sketch where it's just like a panel of women who are all
Yes.
apologizing the whole time?
Yes.
So fucking brilliant. Like, if you're missing out on this show, you have to watch it right now. Like, if you're at this event, you'll probably love her show. But this reminds me so much of that so many people coming up here like, I failed, and you're just listing a list of successes. Like, what the fuck?
Well, there were a lot of other failures I could have talked about, but it would have taken up the entire show, so.
We've all failed a lot. It's fine. So what's your next step?
My next step is to keep working my butt off until that job ends, and that's sort of a nebulous thing because I don't know how long it's going to take to hire people. And then I have an entire list of books that I am planning to write, and it took me a long time to get to that point, but that's the plan. I'm going to start writing those book pitches and start making more books.
Awesome. 51. She's going to fly. Let's hear it for Anina. And if you want to read her amazing comic, Heartbreakers, it is at the merch booth.